Hey guys, so let's continue with what we have. Okay, we're going to start now creating our Firebase functions and our configuration. Okay, so we're going to do something right now. Let's Control C and let's npm install Firebase. We don't have that yet. Okay, so let's wait for that to be installed, and we have the main. We're going to start working with the navigation. Okay, I know this is not the what you might be accustomed to in terms of writing an application, but I'm just going to get rid of all this with the authentication and the higher order component, because that's the most annoying part, okay, to deal with and to have all that right away built in, so we only worry about the rest of the application. Okay, so this is the main part, or the most important part, and the most not difficult one, but annoying. Okay, so we have everything here. We shouldn't need anything else here. All this is working. So we're going to have the reducers, the store. We don't need to do anything else here. Okay, all this is already done. So we're going to continue working with the reducers. This reducer, remember that we created this create a user reducer, okay, that manages the state. The first part of the state, or the default state, is empty. It's just an empty object, and this is what we're going to access with the props inside the navigation. Okay, the routes, we don't need that now, and we're going to pass the state of the user to the application. So we don't need anything else here. Okay, just check that all you have here matches. Okay, and it's taking a bit to install npm install Firebase. Okay, it's taking a bit to install that. So let's create inside this Firebase a new, let's call it config.js. Okay, although it's going to have everything else, you can call it Firebase. I'm just going to keep working with the namings I have. I know my namings are shit, so we're going to import several things. Okay, this is installing. Okay, we already have that installed. Let's say npm start again, so it just starts, and we're going to import 4 things here. Okay, Firebase from Firebase app, and the authentication, Firestore, and the storage. Okay, this shit always opens. Now we're going to create this constant that is going to be our config. It's going to be equals to, you can use a, I think you can use environments with this, right? I'm not that well versed with React, so maybe I will do something more better. Although you can, people can check this, because if you set the rules correctly, it doesn't matter if they have access to the configuration. Okay, so we are going to go here, and we have everything. So let's say project configurations. Let's click here, and it redirects us to this. I don't know why they added this fucking page. So let's say React Redux to, yeah, just like that, register application, and it shows us now our credentials or whatever. So let's come back here and let's paste this. Okay, so at this point we're not using the config. Let's save that. Here we're going to create a new class. Okay, we're going to handle this using a class that is going to be Firebase. And since we're going to handle first the sign up and the login, we're going to create those functions first, but we need to initialize the app. So let's say Firebase that initialize app. Why is not getting the let's save this. Oh, that's odd. Import Firebase, Firebase service or access. Should be getting that. So let's say Firebase, or let's actually copy that so I don't screw things. Okay, but well, this is odd. This is, let's import it like that. From why this thing is not working? Okay, let's say constructor. Forgot to add the constructor, and this is going to be inside. I just want to cut and paste. Okay, so that was it. Forgot to add the constructor and to initialize our application inside the constructor. Okay, so everything was being imported fine. And we're going to say this.auth is going to be equal to Firebase that now it gets everything. Okay, and okay, maybe it took some time to load, I don't know, but maybe because I was outside the constructor, but it should well, fuck it, let's continue. This.db is going to be the database. Okay, so let's say firebase.firestore. Okay, so now we have access to those two using Auth and db, and we're going to start using the functions that Firebase provides us for authentication. But before I forget, let's go to the console. Let's go to authentication. Let's say configure. Okay, let's click there and let's say no, we don't want this to send the email. So this is going to send an email, and it's going to when we click that email, it's going to redirect us to and have us log in. Okay, but every time we want to log in, it's going to be the same process. So we are going to enable only the email and password. Okay, just like that. So this is passwordless. Save. So that should be working. And let's say first, since we want to log in, let's say async. Okay, we don't have any user inside our application. Sign in. We are going to receive the email and password. So what we're going to say is constant user is going to be equals to await. Okay, the Firebase auth that sign in with email and password. Okay, we need to pass here the email and password we are receiving, and here we're going to catch the error in case there's an error, and we're just going to console that. There's another way to access this that could be, okay, but we're not going to use that user and user error. Okay, So you would check if there's instead of catching, okay, here return if user error, and let's say like this. We're going to use this on another, okay, so you can have if user error and do all your shit. So this is going to be added if there's an error, okay, so that's going to catch that. So we're just going to do this right away inside this await, okay, and just console that. So we this is only accessing right away the error, but if not, it's going to return the user, okay, and we return that user. Let's remove that. And since the other one, let's say here sign in, no sign, but sign, okay, and log in. Let's add the spacing. So this is similar. We're going to use async await almost everywhere, okay, and not sign in but log in. Also requires email and password. The same constant user is going to be await Firebase that auth. In this case, it's going to be login or no, sorry. This is not it. This is create user. Sorry, create user with email and password. It's the same, but this is going to create the user passing the email and password. Okay, so this is going to sign in the user with email and password. Okay, so that's the way it should be, email, password. And we're going to do the same, cache the error in case there's an error, and just console it, not user but error, and return the user in case there's a user. Okay, so you can have with the other way, like I showed you, you can throw an error, okay, and handle that better using this one. But as I said, we're going to use that in another. I don't have anything prepared, but I'm planning to use that. I'm planning to use async await almost everywhere, so we can get used to that in case you are not aware of how this works. Okay, and at the end of our class, let's remove all this spacing. Okay, let's remove all that again, and we're going to export default a new Firebase instance of this class. Okay, so now this is the navigation. No, we need to create the sign-in component. I'm just going to keep my naming because I don't want to okay, no, it's just like this, signin.js. And this is the first component that is going to have the Firebase functionality. Yeah, it's not that big. So I'm just going to import this, copy and paste it, import React and use state from React. Okay, remember we also have the store, so let's import also this. Import use dispatch from React Redux, and here we're going to do something that we still don't have, that is import, okay, the action. Okay, so this is an action, and we still don't have that. So let's go to actions and let's say create. Let me see the naming. Yes. No, it's not create, it's sign in.js. Okay, and here we're going to handle or dispatch. So right away, because let's just say this. Okay, and let's just keep that away. Let's continue right now. Okay, we have this, we're going to add it in a second, but let's continue with this so we can have the functionality of the form. Okay, I think I'm going to add that by hand. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit. Let's say constant email and password is going to be equals to use state and just an empty string. Now constant, sorry, why I did that, set email. Okay, password, set password. So we create our setters and our constants. So the use state returns two parts. Okay, this part that changes the state and this part that is the actual state. Okay, so that's why we need this part in order to add the new state. You can call it however you want. So use state is going to always return two parts: the part that handles the state and the state itself. Okay, we're going to import right away the no, we're not going to import that. So yeah, let's keep this like it is so we can focus on the return. And well, I'm going to copy all this then. I'm going to type it React, although this is just a form. Maybe for you to see. Then we're just going to copy and paste all the forms because it's just the same thing. So this is going to handle the sign in function that we still don't have that, so we need to come here, say constant sign in to create a new function, and let's say event that prevent default. We don't want to be redirected or to be the application to be reloaded. So here actually we're going to access our action. Okay, but let's continue with this. So this is going to say only just to have something console.log form or user created, just like that. So now we continue. Let's add a little. My dog is moving my create an account. Okay, if I have some errors in my English, I don't give a fuck. Let's continue with this label. Okay, so let's say HTML4, just to have this kind of syntactic or semantic, you know. So in case someone clicks the label, it's going to redirect us to the email. Not redirect us, but it's going to add the focus to the input. So let's say input. Just like that. Let's always add the type. Also is, although it's text, let's add it anyways. It's not text, also it's email. Okay, we want that validation. The name is going to be email, and on change we're going to add some functionality that is going to be the set email to the event target, okay, that value. So on change is going to set the state of the email using this function, okay. Let's say label, okay, let's copy just the other one, it's the same. So this is for the password, the name password, type password, and on change is going to set the password to the target value, okay. And let's add our input. And here export default sign in. We don't need a router here, I mean with router. And let's see, okay, we don't have that added to the routes, so let's add it. Okay, I want to check that everything is correct. Okay, so I'm just copying what I have in my routes and adding. So this is going to match the exact path of sign in. Okay, and it's going to use the sign in component that we don't have imported. So let's import it. Sign in from components sign in. Okay, so the login is going to be similar. So at this point, we don't have any way to access that. Okay, so let's go to the nav and create something that is not going to work yet, but in order to render the sign in, login, and logout buttons. So we're going to work with the navigation right now. So at this point, we don't have the action. We don't have the, well, we have the reducer. The configuration is set for the sign in and login functions, okay, and Firebase. The path to the route is set, and all this should be working, okay. If we go to sign in, okay, you can see that it's working. And if we do this, create account, oh sorry, it's going to actually user created, okay. So that is working, don't worry about it. Let's go back to the main, but we don't have the functionality here, so let's add actually the functionality, because this takes some work. We're going to do it right away. So I forgot one function inside our Firebase config, that is the logout, okay. So let me find that, and so the logout, what it's going to do is remove the Firebase token that we have saved in the index data, okay. So async logout is going to be constant user, and we need to manually set the user, okay, in the navigation. So you will see is sign out, and we're going to catch if there's anything else, error. and let's call it logout. So actually this is not going to, I don't think we're going to use this one, but we can, okay? In case you want to do something else, you can return whatever, but I'm just going to return this, okay, just to have it there. So this is going to sign out the user, okay, and store it in a variable, and we'll return that, the response, in case you want to do something with that. Let's go to navigation again and start importing something from Redux. Let's import use selector and use dispatch from React Redux, and we are going to need this. So let's import it right now, even though we don't have it. The logout user action, okay, we still haven't gotten there, and we are going to import our configuration Firebase class, okay, so we can have access here. So this is going to be quite a long video because we need to do several things here. So I'm going to add all this. Let's say constant login selector. We don't have anything. Okay, let's just keep this and let's see if everything works. It's compiling, still compiling. Okay. So since we're going to right away add or access the state from the reducers, let's go and create another action that is going to be the logout and the login. Okay, two more actions, and we're going to start with the actions. Login JS and logout JS. Okay, and let's start with the login. No, sign in so we can see it works. Okay, so we are going to import Firebase from our configuration, and we're going to export a constant create user for this is for the not sorry this is not it, this is for the sign in here. Okay, so it's going to be this constant create user. We're going to export that. It's going to have the email and password. So these are the actions that we are going to use inside our components. So this is a Redux, okay? So we're going to return a async function with the dispatch, and let's say constant user is going to be the await of Firebase that sign in. Okay, that is the function from Firebase from our configuration. Okay, you can see that it takes email and password. So we pass email and password again. So from here it's going to be added inside this. We can console the user and we can dispatch the type of the action we want, that is create user, but this is an object, and the payload that is going to be user. Okay, you can add also another dispatch in case the user is not added, so you could check if user and dispatch this. Okay, but we have online 10 inside, and in case user is not set, just to do that, just to handle it however you want. So this is the create user. Let's go to the login to actually create all our actions here. It's similar, so I'm just going to copy that and paste it. The Firebase config, this function is going to be called login user. It's going to receive the email and password, and it's going to await for the login function, that is this one. Okay, so everything that we are going to use inside our actions is going to come from this Firebase class. And the type is going to be login user, but there's a catch here. We don't have the reducer for the login. Okay, so let's create that login.js. I think I have it like that. Yep. And this is similar to what we have on the okay, we can close this, the routes, this one, because we don't need to be checking that right away. The reducers, we're going to add two more reducers, the logout and the login, and the actions, we can close it. So the sign in, this is almost the same that we are going to define for the login user. So I got that. Let's paste it. So this is the login user, the custom login user. The first set or the default state is going to be this empty object, because Firebase returns us an object. And what we're going to call is the login user. Okay. And let's create the logout. Okay, so we are calling, or we're sending the type to login user on the login user action. Okay, and passing the user as the payload. So let's say logout. Where is my logout? Okay, it's this one. And we're going to do two things inside our dispatch, or we're going to dispatch two things. Constant, no, sorry, export constant logout user is going to be equals to this function. We don't need anything there. We're just going to call the sign out function, but we're going to return the async function with the dispatch, and we're going to await. We need to do this. Okay, we're going to await for this to finish logout. Okay, and we're going to do two things. We're going to dispatch two actions and pass the payload, because we need to pass that. Let's say type login user. Why we need to do this? In case you watch my other video about MERN, is no MERN, something similar to this but without the hooks. React Firebase authentication with Redux but without the Redux hooks. And you will see that if the user signs in, creates a new user, okay, then a part of the state is going to be added, and if the user logs in, another part of the state is going to be added. It's going to be one or the other. Okay, so we are going to handle the login user and create user. Okay, we're going to dispatch for those two. Okay, when the user logs out, in case the user use the login form, we're going to set the login user that is going to be, okay, the action code to be the empty object, okay, because you can see that we are going to set the user to the action payload that is going to be a user, the user information, and it's going to be the same in case he creates a new user. After he logs out, we need to wait for this to finish. It's going to set the user to be an empty object. Okay, so that's the only thing we need to do in the logout. So let's close all this. All this should be working, but I don't have the logout inside the reducer. So let's add that. And we still haven't added the, so this is the same, the reducers to the main reducer, okay, the logout and the login to the reducer. So we are going to add that in a second and just test it. So this is the same, the logout user and reducer, the main or the default state is going to be an empty object, and it's going to call the logout user or wait for that and set the user to the user, okay, that in this case is going to be just the empty object. You can handle this differently, but however you want, okay. So let's close all this and actually import the reducers. So this one is login user from login, and the other one is logout user from logout, and we add the naming here. That is just let me check the correct naming. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. This is just setting the namings that we're going to access, okay, login and logout for the login user and logout user, okay. So let's save that. Let's come back here, refresh, okay, everything is working. And now let me check the time. Okay, we have some time. Let's go to the navigation, okay. So this is going to be nav, okay. And now we have our actions and our reducers working, okay, or those should be working. So let's import the logout user. Just give me a second. Okay, so sorry about that. I was going to copy something. So let's copy this and let's paste it. Okay. So we're going to say use selector. Okay, we don't have to connect to this nav like the old Redux. Okay, so we're going to call two things from the state. The login is stored in this login selector that is going to use selector. We're going to grab the state and we're going to say, okay, from that state, give me the login. It's the same for the sign in, and let me add some semicolons there, semicolons. And you might be asking, where the hell you're getting this? I'm getting this from here. Okay, these are the namings that we added. Okay, so the font starts now. We're going to set another constant here. It's going to be constant user state and set user state. Okay, my dog is dreaming, is kicking the table. Okay, A. And sorry about that. Use state to null, nor null, but null. Now the dispatch, constant dispatch, is going to be use dispatch. Okay, this is going to call the action. So constant log out user action. Okay, so this is going to be the logout for the user. And let's say dispatch and logout logout user. Okay, that is the what we are importing, the action. It doesn't require anything. And let's define some other things here. The use effect. So it's going to say Firebase. Okay, we're going to call a new function that we still don't have. Okay, let's keep this one here. We're going to add it in a second. Let's finish with this. So constant logout is going to be equals to async function and let's just console logout user. So here the set user state, we need that. Okay, so we're going to add that using a new function that we're going to add inside our config. Okay, let me go to my files, scroll all the way down, and we're going to create a new function here. So this one is going to be async get user state. It's going to say return a new promise because we want to wait for the set the on out state change. Okay, so this is going to be this.auth that on out state changed, and here we're going to resolve it. Okay, so it's going to wait until this is done. Okay, and return us if there is a user. So we're going to return to the nav, and here inside the use effect, why I have okay. Inside the use effect, we're going to call that function. So everything is rendered every time we refresh the application, the browser is going to call this function. Okay, so let's say get user state, then we're going to see or set user that is this constant we added here. Okay, this is going to check the user to be that. So here inside the logout, we're going to define the set user. Okay, remember that it started with the null value up here. Okay, so we're going to add that again if we log out, and await for the logout user action. That is the action we're going to use here. That this action is using the logout user that we're importing. That this is the action we define here. Okay. So instead of calling this, it's going to dispatch that action, and it's going to store it inside this, so we can call the action using this logout user action. Okay. Okay, so that should work. And let's add this. the props history, replace, and it's going to replace it with the main route. So we have that. Now we are going to define something, and this is going to be the end of this video. Okay. So we still don't have the login and sign up buttons, although they should appear down here. So we need to define that. So let's define this variable let buttons, and let's check. Okay, we need to check something. If login selector that user, and okay, so this is coming from here. Okay, so if the sorry, let me check again. Yes, is the selector. This is okay. Let me show you what this is doing. So we are using login selector and the user. Okay, you might be thinking where that shit is coming from. Inside this login, let's go all the way to the reducers. That is this login. Okay, and this login is pointing to this login user that you can see here that has the user. Okay, as the default state. So we are going to access that. So first we're going to check if it's defined, and then login selector that user, if that has own property of user. So in the case the user is logged in, it's going to have inside the user object another object called user. Okay, so this is only the way I'm doing it. So you can only define instead of being an object, so you can check if it's null or not. Okay, so you can do whatever you want with the default state for that file. So the next thing is going to be similar, by using sign in selector that user and sign in selector, not song, sign in selector that user that, okay, let me double wrap, that has on property user is going to be the same if the user is signed in using the signing form. Is going to have inside the user object we define another user object, and or user state isn't equals to null. And if we refresh and we check if the user is actually logged in, okay, using the on state change from Firebase. So that is what we're going to do here. And we're going to define the buttons, since we haven't defined that, to be, let me just copy this, I don't want to type it, it's been a long video, so it's going to be only a React fragment. Okay, I didn't want to add to do that. It's going to have this list with a button logout. Okay, so these buttons, why is this thing what if I add the else? What is going on with this? Else, okay, this should work. Okay, so that works. So as I said, button is not buttons. Buttons now is declared, okay, but the value is never read because we haven't added that, and we're going to add it here on line 53 in a second. So if we have a user, we're going to display the logout, and if we don't have a user, we're going to set the buttons to be the sign in and login, okay? And we want to add it here, buttons. So let's save and let's check, okay? We have now the sign in and the login that is not currently working. So I think we're going to end this one here because it's been a lot. So we have our navigation, okay? It should work, but we still need to test it. So let's end it here and let's continue in next video.